Hi, guys. Good afternoon from sunny Texas, Dallas-Fort Worth area. I'm Jordan. This is my beautiful wife, Robin. And we are starting a series to talk about our life with two differently abled children. So we have three. One is unaffected and two are differently abled. And our friends and family and acquaintances have asked us to talk about how we process this, what our life looks like, our relationship with the Lord through all this, and our relationship between one another, and just how that all looks and works together. So just wanted to give you that kind of baseline before we go into this. Do you want to tell them a little bit about our girls?
Yeah. So we have three kiddos, as Jordan talked about. We have Shiloh, who's 4. We have Gabrielle, who is 2. And Judah, who you might hear in the background. He is 5 months old. He is not napping today, so we're giving this a go. There he is. Hello. And we are, our family is affected by a disease called Spinal Muscular Atrophy. When our eldest daughter, Shiloh, was about 15 months, we noticed some regression in her standing. She was no longer standing on her own, and it just happened to be a very busy time in our life. We were selling our first house, moving into another one, and we didn't recognize it as quickly maybe as we should have. Our pediatrician said, hey, I think you might need to go to a neurologist.
What's your first child, too? You don't know what to expect.
Right, of course. Yeah, and everybody said, oh, she'll walk. Wait till
our child didn't walk till they were 18 months.
Yeah,
exactly. I remember that one. Yeah.
And so
that's what we were waiting on.
Yeah, we were waiting on it. We were just waiting to see. And our pediatrician said, yeah, I think you might want to check with the specialist. And that was probably one of the scariest days we ever had. The neurologist said, well, it could be a huge spectrum of things, the worst being something called spinal muscular atrophy. And that was the first time.
So don't look it up.
Yeah, that was the first time we'd ever heard that. And he said, don't look it up. And I'm really grateful that we didn't look it up, because had we looked it up, we would have found out that it is the, what do they say? It's the largest killer of infants under 2. We would have read that, and that's terrifying to read, but we didn't, and I think it was the grace of God that we didn't read that. We just went into military, mom and dad, we're going to just militantly believe the Word of God over our child's life. And the thing that I didn't mention is that at that time I was 4 months pregnant with Gabby, and we had her coming, and we were about to move into a 2-story house. So fast forward, we wrestled with God, what is happening here? And we didn't want to hear the worst. And I think there was something in both of us that said, this could be true. This could be spinal muscular atrophy. She may never walk. Those are the things that he told us. And we didn't want to believe it, but so we delayed the inevitable. We delayed the blood test until the last minute. And in November of 2015, Shiloh was diagnosed at 18 months with spinal muscular atrophy type 2. And her sister was born in February. There were all sorts of medical interventions that doctors wanted to instate after her diagnosis. And we said, hold on, we're about to have another baby. We want to get through that process, and then we'll see what we want to do.
It was the first visit they were wanting to do a G-tube.
Yeah.
I believe the day we did the diagnosis, they wanted to take her into the hospital and do it. It was a lot on that first day.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was I think those 2 days probably might be the most traumatic days that we've encountered. Well, no, I wouldn't say that. I think there's been worse. But they were pretty traumatic because we didn't know what to expect.
Yeah,
and
so
3 months. Yeah. 3 months later, Gabby, we did a blood test for her just to determine if it is SMA. And I remember having a conversation with you saying, well, okay, here's where this is. If she does have SMA, then Shiloh has someone to relate to. Because for us, it's very, at that point, I mean, we've learned a lot. But at that point, we didn't know how to teach and guide our child who, barring a miracle, which God can completely do, and we always stand on that miracle that he can heal and that our girls will walk one day.
Absolutely.
But barring that miracle, Shiloh didn't have anybody to understand her. And so we said, well, maybe if Gabby's diagnosed, then there's the silver lining. They will have each other. And that really is the silver lining. They have a beautiful relationship. They're just 2 years apart, and we are excited to see how that relationship continues to develop. They sing right now. They're in their bedroom, supposed to be napping, and they're singing and talking to one another. Shiloh's trying to wake Gabby up, and they're doing Baby Shark, all that stuff. Yeah. So it's our life is very fun and very full with the kiddos. But do you want to talk about what spinal muscular atrophy is?
Yeah, sure. Spinal muscular atrophy is of the same family of muscular dystrophy, as you probably guessed, and it's the best way I can describe it in very layman's terms is generalized muscle weakness. So just think about every single muscle in your body being significantly weaker all over, and so there's just a strength issue there, and that affects things you wouldn't think about, like your breathing. You think, okay, well, that shouldn't affect respiratory, but it does, because you need the muscles in your ribs to help you breathe and your diaphragm to breathe. And so there's all these things when you first hear about the diagnosis you don't really know. And there's a few other things, but I won't go into those right now. But that's basically the condition, just broken down into just a nutshell. So they both have power chairs. One is purple, one is pink. And that's how they get around.
Follow us on Instagram. You'll see my Instagram stories, and
What's
see
your
them.
Instagram?
Robert84.
Okay. So the best illustration I can think of, and I didn't create this, but I've heard it a lot, is marriage and kids is a lot like planning a trip your whole life. And you're preparing for that trip. You know exactly what you're going to do when you get there. And so let's say that place, that trip, is Alaska. And so you plan for Alaska. You get all the clothes you need for Alaska. You get on the airplane, and you fly to Alaska. You land, and then you get off the plane, and there you are in Asia. And Asia is wonderful, and it's amazing, but it's completely different from Alaska. It's completely different from what you prepared your life to be. And so that when I heard that, it rang true with me, because this, our marriage is awesome, and we have to work through it, just like everybody else does. I don't mean like every day it's a beating, but what I mean
I'd
is...
say it's heaven. It's as close to heaven as you're ever going to get, baby.
Amen.
Well,
Amen.
until you die.
Right.
Then you'll have Jesus. So,
right.
Yeah.
That's right. But everyone has things in their marriage. So that was stuff we were working through and things like that. But this part was just, it's a total curveball. And not a lot of people are raised in homes that have children that are differently abled. So we're kind of learning as we go. And so that's the best way to illustrate that is we've been planning, and you dream about, even as a kid, I dreamed about what my family would be like, and what my kids would look like, and what that everything would look like. And it looks completely different than I thought, but it is still just as full of hope and joy and fun and peace and as I ever dreamed they would. In fact, these circumstances make you grateful. I think I'm not saying that I'm glad that these are our circumstances, but Romans 8:28 says something that I think of a lot, and it says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him." So we stand on that every day, that God didn't cause this. I don't think that we are being punished by God, or He said, it'd be a creative lesson, is if they had two children that were differently abled, or if He thought, it'd be awesome for Shiloh and Gabby is if they were disabled. I think we live in a fallen world, and things happen, and our circumstances do not determine the goodness of God. That is the bottom line. So is there anything you want to say on that?
Yeah.
Or Judah? Does Judah have anything?
Judah, yes. Everybody, this is Judah. Here he is, yes. Judah is unaffected. I don't know if we've broadcast that, but he is unaffected by SMA. He's a carrier.
And a surprise baby.
And he's a surprise baby, yeah.
And a pterodactyl.
Yes, apparently. So, what we refer to, our circumstances is, Jordan, I love that illustration of going to a different place than you expected. It's really our new normal. We talk about that often, this is our new normal. This is what it's going to look like every morning. We don't ever get to sleep in. We wake up at 7:30. We have to do respiratory treatments.
We don't wake up at 7:30. We wake the girls up
Oh,
at 7:30.
yeah, sorry. I wake up at 6, 5:30 usually. Jordan wakes up at 7:30.
No.
Yes. But yeah, we call it our new normal because it doesn't look the way that we anticipated. And I think what we want to talk about in these videos really are how to deal with that.
And so we will do that, and we will see you next week. And maybe Judah will be doing something differently. Goodbye from Texas. Go
Bye.
Cowboys.